Hi, I'm Chloé Caroline.
And I'm Shawna Patruno.
And welcome to our podcast, Unwritten. Yay!
Yay!
All right, so today is kind of like our first real episode, right, Shawna?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's kind of exciting. I feel like we need to tell our stories. So give, people like a little bit of an idea about who we are and who they're listening to.
Absolutely. I'm so excited.
Me too. And it's fun for me because like we were just talking about, like I don't usually get to interview other people. I'm usually being interviewed and you kind of usually do the opposite. So
Yes, and I'm always interviewing people.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a fun role reversal. But let's start with your story.
Okay.
Okay. So how did you start kind of getting into the modeling industry, beauty world?
Yeah, so the beauty world, I started very, I would say young. It was like skincare and that kind of thing. And from that, I one time went to go help with a skincare, being on set for a model. And I basically stumbled upon someone who thought I was a model and I wasn't. And they're like, you should probably apply. And I did. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I did, and I got accepted for that. But I think the reason why I wanted to start modeling, I always wanted to, so I guess it's kind of unwritten. When I was a little kid, I always wanted to model. I would look at magazines, and I was scouted probably about 4 times and always said no.
Okay.
I didn't think I was pretty enough, but it kept coming up. And then this time I was like, okay. And then I got signed to my agency, and then the rest was it just kind of went with the flow, and I kept getting booked for certain things. So that was a lot of fun. And then after I kind of put it into the beauty podcast, so that I started. Okay. So that was a little bit of that.
How old were you when you first started? And
I don't want to say my age, but I was definitely older.
Okay.
So I was actually, I would say, I guess I will now. So I was actually 29 when I started.
That's cool though. That's cool because people, I feel like it's definitely one of those things where people are like, oh, if you want to be a model, you have to be, start at literally 12.
Yes. I did everything later in life because a big reason I wanted to do modeling, and I blushed when I got nervous because I actually am super shy, so you guys will notice that. I was for about 10 years, I didn't think I could do anything. I lived in hospital, so it was kind of like, I'm either going to do this or I'm not going to do this. It's something I've always wanted to do, and then the opportunity kind of dawned on me, and I was like, okay, I'm finally going to do it. It's come a few times, so yeah.
I love that. Well, I feel like that happens sometimes where something just keeps knocking at your door and you're like, maybe. And then finally God's like, okay.
Totally. Absolutely.
Are you tall? How tall are you?
So I don't fall into any of the categories that you would have to be a model, which is great. I'm actually only about 5'6". I actually got taller. Because, I used to have a very severe eating disorder, which stunted my growth. So when I started recovering, I got taller. So I'm 5'6". So
wow. Okay.
So I'm not tall, and I am not super young. So
I love that. Honestly, I think that is the coolest thing for people to hear because it's just, once again, it's kind of proving the world wrong. We love to do that.
Yes, I love it. So and that was another thing I wanted to share through modeling, that you don't have to be the society norm, that you can kind of go after your dreams at any age, and don't ever believe that something's not possible, because anything's possible, right? Or it's too late. So that's kind of why I was like, and whenever I feel like I can, I'm like, Shawna, there's so many people who say that to themselves, so just see what happens. And there are so many great opportunities. I've gotten to meet so many amazing people, so it's been a lot of fun. But I love busting beauty myths, and I wanted to share a bigger message about inner and outer beauty. So that's kind of what keeps me modeling, is to share that message and have a bigger platform talking about different things. Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. What's it like? 'Cause you just said, you know, you're more shy personality wise. What's it like for you? Like, or what was it like for you when you were first getting used to being in front of a camera?
Oh my gosh, I'm still really awkward, which is so funny that you're like, let's do it on video. And I'm like,
yeah.
So it was really hard. I had to kind of put on a persona. Like I would pretend I was kind of someone else and like hype myself up. I did a lot of affirmations, like you're beautiful, stuff like that. But it's funny, as soon as the camera comes on, a lot of people will be like, you're super shy in person, but when the camera comes on, it's like your personality kind of changes. Sure. So yeah, it's still scary. I'm always scared, but it's a lot of fun to challenge myself. Yeah.
I love that. I think a lot of people can relate to that too, you know, doing something like outside of their comfort zone. And once they go for it a couple times, like they kind of, you get that high a little bit from doing it. And eventually, like, I don't know, I feel like you get used to it. Like you said, like you still get a little bit nervous, but it's rewarding, right?
Yeah. I was definitely not naturally outgoing, so I've always pushed my limits with it. But it's a lot of fun. I think I naturally have a lot of good poses too. So I think I think we all have an inner calling. Like I'm sure you felt like that with music.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit about it.
What helps you to kind of push those limits? Like what, like, you know what I mean? Like what do you kind of like resort to kind of like get to that place where you feel like
I think the bigger message behind what I'm wanting to do with the beauty standard. So whenever I don't feel like, oh, I'm like feeling uncomfortable, I remind myself, I'm like, this is for people. Like I'm not doing it for myself in a lot of ways. Like I'm trying to carry a bigger message. So that makes me want to be more outgoing and to like show little girls that you don't have to be a certain standard, and then just to like love your body, whatever shape and size you are. And that, I think that helps me kind of go after my dreams, as knowing like this is for brain aneurysm survivors, this is for eating disorder survivors. And I'm just like, that makes me want to wake up, because it's the bigger why when I feel like I can't. So that's what I love doing. Yeah.
I love that so much, because I do feel like too, like people can look at models and think, oh, they're just faces, you know, faces on a magazine, or faces, you know, on a billboard or whatever it is. And it's like, no, like you have a story behind why you do it. It's not just I like to get my picture taken. You know, like there's a this deeper reason behind it. And I think that's so cool that you also share that through your podcast, because otherwise people might not get the opportunity to know that.
Yeah, and that's exactly why the podcast was born, and why I was so excited to do this with you as well, because I feel like this is also pushing a different norm. So yeah, I feel like it all kind of interconnected and kind of flowed together. So
I think so too. How long after you started modeling did you get into your podcast? Kind of like, what was that moment like? How did that come about?
Yeah, so actually it was a radio show first, and my sister is in broadcasting, so it was a radio show first. And then afterwards, like I have my own brand and beauty business where I kind of help women feel beautiful from the inside out, and I talk about nutrition and skin. And I was like, you know, I want to start my own thing. Like I really want to connect mind, body, skin, and soul. And why am I doing that? Like interviewing other people, because I never know people's true intentions, and I would meet a lot of people and I never knew. So then after the radio show, I was like, I really want something to come from a heart-centered place, and I really want to put so much good into the world, just like all this love out there, to make people believe in themselves and not rely on other people. So then I started that. So it was the radio show that was gifted to me, that gave me the confidence, my sister, and that gave me the confidence to kind of do that. And then it's just like the next step kept coming. Like I was in the beauty industry for skincare, modeling, then radio show, podcast, and now I'm here.
Right. What is it like for, you know, you said you struggled with an eating disorder. Like, what is it like having, you know, been through that struggle and then now talking about it?
Honestly, it's been so hard to like authentically show up sometimes, because I don't know how much to share or not to share. But I feel like it's really nice to be transparent and pretend I'm not perfect. I think that's really something that with my brand, Reawakening Beauty, like I love to share. So it feels like I can connect deeper with people because I think we all have, whether it's you've gone through an eating disorder or if you've had something else, we all judge ourselves to these crazy standards. We're constantly wanting to be different people. So I think sharing that just made it feel like I connected deeper with people. And there wasn't this, I don't know if that answers the question correctly, but that it was just allowing myself to really be my truest, authentic form and not be ashamed of anything. Like, and mental health is huge for me. I love being an advocate for that. And eating disorders are kind of a form because you don't see yourself clearly. So I wanted to share that to connect with people and raise awareness for mental health.
Right. Well, and especially like I think it's really interesting being in an industry where, you know, eating disorders and mental health issues are very prevalent. Modeling, it's your image, it's everywhere, you know. And so what is it like for you, you know, to kind of be in that industry still? Like, do you look at it more like a challenge? How do you kind of face maybe things that might surface, triggers, you know what I mean, that I'm sure naturally come up?
Yes. So I really have a good connection with balancing my mind, because my mind is something that's really like I have to take care of. And I realize nutrition is really linked to the brain. So if I don't eat well, then my moods and my hormones get all thrown off track. So I wanted to kind of make sure that I could do that. And then when I'm in the industry, if I'm not eating well, then I can't really do what I want to do. But again, it always comes back to my bigger why. So whenever I have really crappy days, I remember like, you know, how do I want to show up in the world, and who do I want to be for my brother and my sister and the people I love? So when I'm in that industry and I see all these images, or I'm comparing to someone who I think is really beautiful, I remember I'm a soul. And I know it sounds cheesy, but I want to make a difference. And so that makes me be the best version of myself and surround myself with the best people. So I really don't care what other people are doing. It's more about me just being the best version, because I know that will have a ripple impact on other people.
Sure. And so it's kind of flipping your perspective, or maintaining that perspective, because I feel like, you know, anybody struggling with addiction, nevertheless an eating disorder, I feel like in order to get better, there has to be this like switch that you give yourself, right? It's got to be a decision that you make. Perspective switch too.
100%. Just I think no one can ever force anyone to get better. It has to be you. But staying better, that also comes from you as well. So I could be inundated with so many images, but it's just like I remind myself of what really matters, and no amount of images or people will ever sway me from who I want to be and like what I want to share. So
do you have any tips or advice for anybody who might be struggling with something of a similar nature that kind of works for you when, you know, those surface?
So I definitely went to therapy. So I'm an advocate for like reaching out for help. But things that I do, I really practice mindfulness and meditation. I always like eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And really just eating to fuel your body, looking at food. This was something that really helped my perspective, because a lot of girls get eating disorders because they want to be beautiful. And I'll share something. I ended up getting osteoporosis and my liver deteriorated. So it actually can depreciate your beauty if you do it long term. So I remind myself of that, and I like to tell other girls that if you do this long term, it can actually really hurt you and actually can make your skin bad. So on those days, to look at food as medicine, and to fuel your body, and look at like whatever you're eating, it's actually nourishing, it's sustaining your mind, your body, and it will help your skin, and you'll actually feel and have more energy to feel beautiful. So to switch that in your brain, and everything that you're eating is now nurturing your body. So that really helped me a lot.
I love that so much. Was it for you, as far as that process to getting to that perspective, I think can be really intimidating and seem like for people, especially like at their really lowest of lows, or somebody who's thinking everything's going really well and then all of a sudden having a really bad day. Like, what was, like timeline wise, you know what I mean? Like how long of a process was this? Like, what was kind of like, was it like just a light bulb switch one day, or?
So it's so funny we're talking about this because I really never talk fully about my full journey. It wasn't a light bulb switch. Eating disorders are really huge misconceptions in my opinion. There's typically an underlying issue, and I had a lot of it was I didn't love myself, and I was trying to be perfect. So I had to seek therapy to uncover that, but there had to be a conscious choice that I wanted to love myself, and that's actually why I really believe everything's connected. Yeah. So I had to look at some parts of myself that were really dark, some trauma that had happened to me, work on those parts. And then when I could accept and love myself, knowing that those things that happened to me weren't me, it allowed me to eat. So that journey took me 10 years. 10 years in and out of hospital and almost dying 3 times. Yeah. So it wasn't like a one and done. Yeah. It was a lot of persistence. So, but some people, if you start younger, so therapy, everybody, it's okay to do that. Definitely. But it took a lot of work and a lot of failure. And I think with anything that you're doing, whether it's modeling or recovery or just trying to be the best version, get rid of bad habits, you don't wake up and a light bulb just goes off. It's like, it's failure helps you get there, and to realize 100%. Recovery is never linear. It's like ongoing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think like you can have, definitely a pivotal moment where you kind of wake up. But I think the part about being a human is that there are days when, you are going to get triggered again, or things are going to happen. And you have to continually look at like what helped me heal and kind of remind yourself how to do it over and over and over again.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing that I'll just say, and I don't want to like bore everybody with it, it's just when you're depleted of vitamins, like your brain does work differently. So when you get to a certain point, like it's really important to start eating again, because you actually don't think clearly, and depression and anxiety can be linked to not actually fueling your body, because you can look up studies, but it's a lot of it happens in your gut. So once you get so far in your illness, it's super hard to get out of it without someone helping you sometimes, because the brain has gone too far with starvation. So help is really important. Like, I really
think like it's okay to ask for help.
It is okay to ask for help, and to having and realizing like it's all connected. Like you're not crazy or anything like that. It's like it's proven. Like if you don't eat, just go a couple hours without eating, and people become angrier or something like that. So it's all connected. You know what I mean? Hangry. It's a thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah,
it's a real 100%. Thing.
Well, I think you're just like such an inspiration for anybody that's struggling with anything like that. Just looking at where you're at now and the mindset that you have. Nevertheless, like continuously being in an industry that is fighting back against what you know what I mean? How you've come so far, yet you're still like in this industry that kind of, is consistently probably challenging,
consistently
trying to tell a different story.
Yeah. And I think like I'm so excited to hear your story as well, because I feel like we always have messages that are going to come at us and tell us who we should be, but it's up to us to define who we are, and like the media is trying to make you feel sometimes like you're not good enough, or that you need this diet. It's up to you to say, I'm worthy of love and acceptance and to feel beautiful just as I am.
Right. And right in the moment you did that, sorry to interrupt you really quick, but the moment I feel like you did that and started, taking the steps towards that mindset and starting to love yourself and appreciate yourself, it's kind of like look at where you are now. You're able to kind of create the reality that you want, which is getting to be a model. These opportunities start flowing in the moment you start loving yourself.
It's not exactly. Absolutely. it is all about self-love and your definition of self. So, because when I had the old definition, seeking approval through what I was doing, all the things I wanted to do, I couldn't do. But when I stepped into, okay, I accept my body, it's going to do what it's going to do, it's going to look the way it's going to look, and I love and accept it, you know?
Right. All of a sudden, you know, modeling agency is picking you up. Like, that's so crazy that, you know, it's the opposite of what you think would happen. And there you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Do you have any like final piece of advice or part of your story that you want to share?
No, I would say the last thing is just like to believe like in yourself. I think that that's what I would just like to share with everyone, is to just believe in yourself. There are always going to be people who tell you that you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough. I mean, I was told all those things. But you know, that's not true. A lot of these perceptions were limiting beliefs that were placed on other people, and you get to choose who you are. And you from this second, it doesn't matter if you're 30, 40, 50, 25, you decide where you want to go, and really, anything is possible. Like, I just want to leave that with you. If you believe in yourself, and just keep saying it. I know that sometimes it's going to feel stupid, but look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself these amazing things, and it will all come to fruition.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And everything you just said is exactly why we're doing this podcast, is to hopefully continue to encourage people that, they can create the reality that they want, and it's up to them. And it takes, you know, getting to that perspective of loving yourself, really, and loving those around you, and continually just being kind of that beacon of love, as cheesy as it is, like you just said, you know. But it is possible, and you're, again, living proof that it is.
Absolutely.
So cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you for interviewing me. It's so
different.
I'm like all blushy because I'm like typically used to, I like asking the questions, but don't like being asked them.
Oh, well, no, this has been fun. I'm just such like a talker, so I could interview all day now. I'm like, this is kind of nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Glad that we have a podcast, Shawna.
Yeah.